Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is All New Secret Romance, issue number 42, dated May 1979. And we take a look. I remember that summer of 79 very well at this time. It's when I left grade school. Take a look at the cover. The cover is by Capello. Yeah, kind of like a very busty blonde without. She doesn't look like she's wearing a bra here. She's like passionately kissing this guy with this brown wavy hair. When guys have brown hair in Charleston comics, they're cool looking. If women have it, they're mousy little uglies. And so I'm gonna get into this comic book. I'm gonna take a look at the first story here, and it's called The Duncan Girl. And this is a bad girl who is misunderstood. Our protagonist is Anne, and she's with a guy called Gary, but she ends up with someone else. So anyway, I'll get into his name. So anyway, it looks like Anne is a very beautiful young woman, kind of. I'm trying to think who she looks. Maybe Barbie Benton. Maybe she has that kind of look to her. And if you remember the film Heathers, there's a scene where the Heathers girls, they go to that party with the college kids. This is pretty much this. So who knows? Maybe the screenwriter of that film was reading this comic. So we see Anne here. She's kind of struggling with this guy called Gary. And the thing is, she's at this party. Now, once again, we're told that these are high school seniors, I guess, but they just look like seniors. It looks like one of the high school teachers. He's with one of these students who must have been left back at least 7 times from the age. So these are really old teenagers here. So it looks like Gary wants to get his freak on. But the thing is, Anne doesn't want to do that. She's saying this is a bad scene. We have 50-year-old kids who are drinking. We have others who are on the porch alone, smoking. And it smells like something other than tobacco. So this is kind of like saying this is kind of, there are illicit drugs being used here. We see that Anne is kissing Gary passionately. So despite all of Gary's vices, Anne is still willing to have like a physical relationship with him. Then suddenly there's a knock at the door. Gary's surprised here. He's saying, where's my hearing aid? Where's my cane? And Anne just says she wants to leave. So I'm going to turn the page. Then the party is busted by the police. They said, we smelt something, and it wasn't out tobacco. So anyway, the 2 cops, they're stopping. We have these teenagers, these 40-year-old teenagers wearing leisure suits. They're aghast. The cops saying, "Listen, we heard that you guys are underage, but we're looking at your old asses, and we doubt that. So we want to see proof of age here. We want to know that you are exactly 47 years old and not the 17-year-olds other people are telling us you are." So the oldsters, some of them get arrested. They were using marijuana and other substances. So the thing is unlike one of the other romance stories that I reviewed where the story revolved around drugs, this doesn't really do so. It's setting up that's a bad scene, and those kids are bad for being in it. So the thing is, Anne realized she's going to be smeared by association, because even though she wasn't acting bad and she knew it was a bad scene, nevertheless, she kind of got caught in it. Then the thing is that she had to call mommy and daddy to tell them that they've been arrested. We see the dad here. He's really grumpy, saying, "All great. Now my daughter has been arrested for marijuana possession." And oh no, I'm sorry. This isn't the dad. This is a reporter. What reporters would do, or they used to do, is that they would visit the police station every morning to see who was arrested, because apparently the arrest ledgers are open to the public. Because we live under habeas corpus. You showed the body. So if someone's looking for someone and they've been imprisoned or detained or in jail, their arrest would be, written in a ledger that was public record and that anyone could ask for. But usually the people who are asking for this were reporters, and the reporters would want to see whether there were any famous names, that were arrested. So that's sort of how they would build sources. Usually they had someone at the station who would tell them. So anyway, what's happening is it's being reported. So everyone's finding out in their little town newspaper, that there was this marijuana party, and they found out that this little princess has been arrested in it. The parents are angry. They're saying, listen, the police aren't going to really press charges, but nevertheless, your name is being smeared in the gossip rags. Turn the page. So obviously, Anne comes from a family of status, and they don't want to lose that status. I'm going to turn the page. So Anne is trying to pick up the pieces of her life. She calls out to a friend, Patty. Patty, her 50-year-old disheveled self is walking away. Her mom, who's 70, is saying that her 50-year-old high school student, quote, "We have no time to waste, Patricia, especially with the dunking girl." So she's being marginalized and branded as the dunking girl. She's the bad girl. She's the one who gets in trouble. You don't want to be around her aura. You don't want to breathe in the oxygen molecules that she breathed in. We could see that she doesn't like this. What's her name again? Anne. Yeah, Anne doesn't like this stuff, because people are gossiping about her. They're treating her bad. They're sending her bad signals that she's a bad person. She's like, no, I'm not. Then we see this kind of somewhat disheveled guy. He calls for Anne. Hi, Anne. And then Anne ignores him, saying, he probably thinks I'm a tramp because I was at that party. So, yeah, they're thinking maybe Anne's kind of a loose girl here. Anne is not getting any calls anymore. People don't want to invite her to places. They don't want to be around her. So she's being kind of frozen out of her peer group here. And she's feeling like she doesn't have a friend in the world. Then this guy, as she's walking in the park in solitude, she's not really in solitude because there's a male stalker here following. Says, "Anne, wait." You can turn the page. And it turns out it was that awkward guy from earlier. He says, "Anne, we've always been friends. Why are you stubbing me now? And then Anne answers back, "You must have heard the gossip, Nick. I don't want pity." Nick's like, "Listen, I heard about the party from a couple of kids. You were dating Gary, who's a creep. But that's not a crime." And then Anne says, "I wish other people didn't think so." And Gary's like, "Look, Anne, there's a dance at the country club tomorrow night. Will you come with me?" Anne says, "But why, Nick, your family? If my family disapproved, I wouldn't care. I'm going to date the town slut. But as it happens, We'll share a table with my parents. Nick, this is really sweet of you. I'd love to come. Thank you, Nick. You're going to put me on display for your judgmental family. Thank you. Thank you for treating me this way. So anyway, they're preparing for the dinner at the country club. This was a big thing. I know it's definitely a big thing in the '60s, because it was like in all types of episodes where, like, you had to belong to the country club to have any type of social status or social interaction. So anyway, we see that Nick shows up. He's dressed to the nines. He has his tuxedo on. Anne has the long flowing dress. Look, she looks very beautiful. They're both stylishly dressed. The art is pretty good here. It's definitely commercial artwork. But it's pretty good here. It has kind of like a Frank Miller feel to it. An early Frank Miller feel. I'm going to turn the page. So they're both ready to go to the country club. They both look beautiful. They both feel good about themselves. No need to take a look at this ad. I looked at it already. So anyway, they're driving off. This is a modern car. I'm thinking probably Trans Am. Something like that. Some type of sports car. Nick is saying, don't worry, Anne. People will accept you. We'll have a good time. Anne is thinking to herself, I wasn't convicted of smoking grass or drinking or anything, but Gary was trying to kiss me when the police came in. So I guess for the police, that act alone shows that Anne was a bad girl and that they had to bring her in. They had to question. They had to make sure that she was a good girl. And they did it in the most humiliating way possible. Anne is worried that she'll be frozen out socially. Nick is saying, hey, it's no big deal, largely because it is no big deal. And a waiter is escorting them in, and he's saying, your dinner party is already seated. Please follow me. Anne says, your party? Who are we sitting with? And it was like Nick's parents. I think he told him that they're going to be sitting. So it's like Nick's parents, and they're all very. They say that they're polite and welcoming. They don't look it. They look like they want to carve Anne up. The patriarch of the family looks totally drunk, like he doesn't care one way or another. But they're being very friendly. And the thing is, again, this is important to Anne because she says, the Riley family are social leaders. I still can't understand. So she was expecting the freeze out, particularly from high status families like this. But that's not happening. They're being very welcoming to Anne, despite her bad girl reputation. Can turn the page. Then we see Nick is introducing Anne to the cousin Roy. Cousin Roy was at that party, and he points it out. So Anne realizes that she might be sandbagged here, and that this might be Nick trying to kind of humiliate her publicly. The cousin Roy is saying, the police officer who helped escort you young people to jail? That I am Officer Roy Riley, Miss Duncan. Some of this dialogue's really bad. I saw you fighting off that young ape just as I opened the door. But it's not a crime to kiss a beautiful woman. And then Anne says, you're very kind, Mr. Riley. And then she goes, Anne and Nick, they start dancing. Nick says to Anne, you've met Roy before. You used to visit my cousin Kate. And they both remember you, Anne. And Anne kind of like, oh no, I really kind of don't remember them. And we see Nick is enjoying Anne's company. He really digs her. Apparently this has been a long time thing. He's kind of like Anne for a long time. But it's when Anne was publicly humiliated as a drug-taking slut that this guy had the courage to approach her. And Anne is expressing regret, saying, "Listen, I didn't really want to go there, but I ended up, being with Gary. Gary was insistent, and I kind of date these kind of bad boys here." You turn the page. She even calls them creeps. So like, she's referring to her own dating pool as a bunch of creeps. Then we see another couple, and they don't like him. They don't like her. These two, they look like they're well-dressed hillbillies here. At this point, I guess maybe they got an invitation from Jed Clampett saying, just meet us at the cement pond and stuff like that, or they're well-dressed meth heads. So anyway, they see Nick with Anne, who they know as the Duncan girl. And the redhead here, who kind of looks like, what's her name from the Carol Burnett show? Vicki Lawrence. So Vicki Lawrence is saying, "It's the Dwayne girl. I thought she'd be too ashamed to show her face at the club." And then the guy here goes, she usually goes to Wilder parties. Yeah, the ones I go to where I have an extra $50. So anyway, Nick doesn't like this. He's like, "Listen, she's my hoe. And if you want a fat lip, I'll give you one. Meanwhile, your wife, you just take her back to the kennel." That's what he's literally saying. Go back to Club Kennel, and you two dogs just leave. And she's saying, "Hit him, Vance. He insulted me." Vance is being a big pussy. He doesn't want anything to do with Nick. He's running out. he's explaining to Ginger here that their status wasn't as high as they thought. So anyway, they go back to the party. The dad apparently is having a toast to what's her name? Anne here? I think it's Anne. Saying, yeah, Anne's a pretty girl, and Nick has brought back a winner. This is the best chick Nick has brought back, and she's a goddamn slut. So anyway, the two are walking in the forest here. Vince Coletta inked, which means they're complete shadows. Anne can't believe how nice Nick is. And in fact, so much that Anne is starting to feel pretty good about herself. Nick is saying, "Yeah, that's what I want. I want a slut with good self-esteem." And then the two kiss. Yeah, they'll probably make it. I think Nick has a thing for he wants to be associated with the bad girls. So I'm going to turn the page. Okay, so this next story is "Be My Friend, Not My Lover." This is kind of an odd story here. There's a little bit of wish fulfillment. I think maybe some of the executives at Charlton were kind of feeling a little bad about themselves. They kind of wanted to feel like there were young chicks out there who really wanted to be with them, and they really didn't want that $500 donation they would have to pay to be with them. So I think it's Clara and Gordon. And what's happening is that Clara, who kind of looks a little like Lucille Ball, and she's a secretary to Gordon, who kind of looks like a little bit like a thinner version of John Candy with brown hair. Very well dressed, but he's kind of like he's definitely over the hill here. And the thing is that Claire is the secretary to Gordon. Gordon's a businessman. Gordon is a competent businessman, but he doesn't seem like a terribly established one. But he's the guy who, when I need to get things done, I can get things done. And Claire kind of wants to see this happen. One, she kind of likes the guy, Two, she's still not sure about the guy, because while he has some positives, he also has a few negatives with him. Maybe she isn't sure that she can build a life around with this guy. And Claire is asking Philip or Gordon about his diet, and one thing Claire noticed is that Gordon removed his cap and his glasses, and then he immediately became much younger looking in her eyes. The hairline hasn't fully receded yet at this point. It looks like he's losing a little weight here. Can I turn the page? So then they're at this business meeting. I'm assuming that this is based off real life Charlton executives. They're talking about comic books here. It looks like maybe the source of where they get their inks or their paper, because Charlton did everything in house. They did not outsource printing of the comic books. They would print the comics. And the reason they got into the comic book business was that they were successful printers. But the thing with printers is that those machines really need to be running 24/7 for them to be effective and profitable. Because they're not the type of machines that you could turn on and turn off. One of the things with the Twin Towers was that the lights were never fully turned off in the towers, because to turn off all the lights at night when the office people leave and then to turn them back on, that took more electricity than just simply leaving them on. So for the printer presses to work properly, they just really have to be on 24/7. So they started printing comic books just so they had something to print. And that's how they entered into the comic business. These guys, they're saying, listen, I think Gordon is saying, come down half a cent per copy, Gordy, and I'll take $400,000 and sign a 3-year contract. And then we see Gordy saying, the best I can do is a quarter of a cent, Angelo. Take it or leave it. And apparently this is a done deal. He was looking to save 50 cents, but the other guy says, listen, you only save 25 cents. And they're going to take 100,000 units. I'm guessing that's 100,000 comic books a month. So yeah, they're just telling us their standard contract. We see that Clara, she really does look like Lucille Ball at this point here. So after I Love Lucy and Here's Lucy got canceled, she kind of fell on hard times here. So the contract is done, and but the guys, they just want to eat, so they don't want to sign the contract yet. Claire's turning down the offer for some shortcake. Claire's saying, no, thank you. Some people don't care what they look like, but I do. So the thing is, that's kind of a little bit of a shot at Gordon. Gordon, who's kind of letting himself go at this point. The businessman, he's impressed with Lucy, saying that, listen, if you give up on her, you can send this little MILF my way. And but Gordon is saying, I couldn't do anything without Carla. So the two are driving back. Gordon asks Carla if she wants to go on a dinner date, and she's saying, after what you ate for lunch, you don't need to eat for another week. So so Clara's making clear that Gordon is the little piggy. He's a little fatty. And she doesn't kind of agree with that. She's very judgmental about it. Gordon is making the point that he's only 5 years older than her. But she's saying, you look 15 years older to me, Mr. Phillips. So the thing is, she won't date him because he looks too much like an old man. This is very similar to what Vivian Vance went through in I Love Lucy. When they were doing the casting, Vivian Vance was paired off with William Frawley. William Frawley is a terrific actor. He's the angry, grumpy old guy. You know, off camera, he was not a good guy. He was a bit of a racist. He drank way too much. But the thing is, when he was on camera, he was so good, and he was Fred Mertz. And the issue that Vivian Vance had with William Frawley wasn't with him personally. It was that he was so old looking that Vivian Vance said, you know, someone who looks like me shouldn't be married to him. Lucy was like, that's okay, that's fine, and that's when Vivian first realized what was going on, because then Vivian noticed that her wardrobe was frumpier compared to Lucy, and Lucy was like, no, that's fine, that's okay, and Lucy kind of like did that to make herself shine. She kind of put Vivian Vance in this situation where she was married to this old goat, and she was a bit frumpy, and she was poor as hell, even though they were the landlords of the building. William Frawley did not like this. William Frawley was like, F that bitch. Because, once again, you know, Vivian Vance had nothing against Frawley personally, but, you know, and, you know, let's be honest, William Frawley, he kind of looks like a mummy at that time. And, you know, women aren't going to, like, date or want to be with that type of guy, even if he has money, even if he went to an escort agency. The girls are going to say, listen, I'll bang someone who's 50, 60, 70 years old. Those are the guys who are mostly with me, but I kind of don't want to date a skeleton either, or like, you know, this old man. So anyway, that's where Carla's coming from. So she's in MILF territory. She's a high value MILF, but the problem is that milk is getting milk from the MILF is getting a little sour. So apparently what's happening is that Gordon is on a trip, and he's going to go on a trip. Is he going to go on a trip? Yeah, he's going to be in California for the next 6 weeks. So the thing is that while Gordon went away, he helped Carla get a raise and a promotion. So the thing is that Gordon is going to California to do a business deal that could help strengthen his position in the company, maybe get him a promotion, get him a raise. Meanwhile, Carla, who's a very good employee in her own right, Gordon arranged for her to get a promotion. So is some little quid pro quo there. But the thing is that Carla's not putting out for Gordon at this point. Now the thing is that this is mixed news to Carla, because on one hand she appreciates the promotion, but on the other hand she kind of liked being with Gordon, and she wanted to stay on the same team with Gordon. So this bothers her because at this point she's going to spend less time with Gordon. Meanwhile, Carla's kind of dealing with the news. They say it's going to be fine. Don't worry. You know, you still see him, but maybe you just won't see him as much. Gordon's going out to California. He wishes Carla well. Carla says to him, "Have a happy trip. You know, good trip, Mr. Phillips." She's thinking to herself, "I'd love to tell him to watch his diet. He really should take better care of himself." So Carla, again, is being very judgmental toward Gordon. Going to turn the page. Going to take a look at an ad. It's the Andy Gibb poster. It is a full-page ad for an Andy Gibb poster. Looking his sexiest, looking his hairiest. He did have that one magical year in 1978 where he had all those hits. His career sort of derailed a little bit, obviously because of the substance abuse problems that he had. He was a poor guy. He seemed like he was kind of searching for his identity. because even though he had an impressive roster of hits, they all came from one album. He was in the shadow of his brothers. He was probably thinking that, hey, I could be just a one album wonder, and that does happen. Um, and also, people had gotten tired of the Bee Gees simply because they were so overexposed. There were actual stations that would have, we're having a BG Andy Gibb free weekend, which meant that whenever you listen, you were not going to hear any of those songs, and it actually kind of hurt the brothers' feelings because they were like they didn't do anything wrong. They were just the victims of their own success because people were getting tired of listening to them, and I think that affected Andy. Then he got into a relationship with Victoria Principal. Victoria didn't take it as seriously as Andy did. I think Victoria was kind of using the guy to jumpstart a singing career. She has a good singing voice, but it was nothing special. They had done a remake of an old 50s song, that's usually not a good sign. If you're like given a cover, because it means they don't trust you with new material. The relationship never blossomed. Victoria was much older than Andy, not much older, but a few years older than Andy, and she left him. Like I said, she didn't take it as seriously he did. He took it very seriously, and his drugs went out of control. Andy ended up on Solid Gold. He ended up getting fired from Solid Gold because he was so coked up he kept missing filming or shooting, and yeah, he ended up dying a very, very sad life. He was like missing teeth and stuff like that. Yeah, and he was the youngest too, and his parents had to bury him. But here, 1977, 78, this guy was flying high. Turn the page. So we see Claire here. She's working for the higher up. This is a guy higher up on the in the company. Claire, I think, is a little horrified. She's looking at this guy. This guy looks like an old leech here. This is definitely the guy with the bad toupee and the flabbiness. This is the guy the escort starts saying no to, no matter how much money he's offering. And he might get a few, but he has to pay a premium price. Claire's like, listen, I don't want to give anything to this guy for free. But what happens is as she's writing down some dictation from this guy, there's a phone call. It turns out to be Gordon. Apparently, everything's going well. And in fact, the boss here is telling Gordon that you should stay a week or two. We're so happy with what you're doing and your timeline. We'll pay for you to stay out there another week or two. This will be, our bonus to you. Claire's listening to this. She's thinking that Gordon is probably gaining weight, and says he's probably out every night with a different woman. Yeah, all these chubby chasing women. That's what's going on in her mind. He's gaining weight, and he's finding all these beautiful chubby chasers. So what happened is, because of this, Gordon is out of the office for another month. Another secretary who looks like she came from the 1800s. She says to Clara, "Gordon Phillips is back, Clara. Wait till you see him." So Clara's saying, "I'd rather not, thank you." She's thinking this guy's just going to be a fat slob. Going to turn the page. And then suddenly this dapper debonair guy shows up. He's very slender. He's slimmed down. He has this big head of hair. This is the head of hair that Gordon didn't have, because his hairline was starting to recede. Claire sees this and she's like, whoa, this guy. And he looks good. This is a tall glass of cool water. And but she kind of recognizes him. She doesn't recognize him by sight, but she recognizes the voice. Claire's saying, "You look familiar," and he says, "Well, I am. I'm Gordon Phillips with a few changes." So apparently, Gordon out there, he was exercising. He was probably taking some steroids, some dangerous substances to lose weight. Maybe he swallowed a tapeworm for a little while. He has a toupee on here, and he has a mustache, so he looks completely different. We see another drawing of a building, and they're talking. So again, I guess this is the shortcut. If you don't want to draw a person, you just draw a building. And we see Shallow Claire is quite impressed with this. All she cares about is the physical. And she says, "You look marvelous. I'm glad you lost that weight." Gordon, he's a little self-conscious about the toupee here. I think in the 70s, toupees were very noticeable. And there were some really bad ones. I think probably Jack Klugman had the best one, because I know Klugman had a toupee, but he had a really nice toupee. Some of the others were like Burt Reynolds sometimes would have bad toupees. Like I remember in the 80s, he had some really bad toupees. I think William Shatner would steal toupees from the Star Trek set. He was wearing a toupee, but the thing is that the obviously the Star Trek, to maintain Captain Kirk's sexual image, they supplied William Shatner with toupees, and they always went missing, and they figured that William just simply pocketed them, figuring, hey, these toupees look better than the rat's nest I have to wear. Frank Sinatra wore bad toupees. So anyway, Gordon is asking Carla for a date. Carla's a beautiful woman. She does look a little like Lucy, but she kind of looks like a young Lucy here. She's still not sure whether this guy has transformed to her standards. She's very shallow. You can turn the page. I can skip this ad. It's just novelty stuff. So anyway, they go to a seafood restaurant, a lobster place. So they're talking about Chief Brody and how he killed the shark. Let's see. They're talking about the meal. I think Claire's saying, "I've ordered lobster for you, Claire." Oh no, this is Gordon. "I've ordered lobster for you, Clara. I'll have a chef's salad, low-calorie dressing, and a small steak." So he's sort of like, he's signaling to Carla that he's taking care of himself. Carla's just cares about his physical appearance, saying, "Wow, you lost that weight, and you look really good. You look really younger. You look presentable to me." And he's saying, "Listen, I would play tennis. I would, swim every day. I would jog." Claire is saying, "Listen, we could ride a bike together, because I enjoy riding bikes. It's fun. It's exercising. It will confirm to me that you're getting that Crisco off of your ass." And so Gordon agrees to it. So the next day they rent some bicycles, and they go on a trail. The two are talking. They're getting to know each other. I mean, Claire is very shallow, but at the same time, she is a good conversationalist. So they're riding for a month. I think what happened is that Claire was originally in better shape than Gordon, but very quickly Gordon kind of overtook her. And Claire's talking about how changing the gears is a drag, which means that it tells me that it's taking her more and more effort to keep up with Gordon. And turn the page. And we see some Vince Colletta inking, which means they are in complete shadows. Claire's saying, "Listen, I'm happy you changed." Gordon is saying, "I'm glad you inspired me to change." Claire's admitting she was a little rude. But at the same time, she also says that she was bothered by Gordon's lifestyle, saying that listen, you were kind of a youngest guy. We and you were in the same age range. You had a lot of qualities that I liked, but the thing is, you had a bad lifestyle. You were gaining weight. Your hairline was receding, even though he had nothing to do with that. Believe me, if I had a choice between my hairline receding and it not, I would have kept my hair. But nevertheless, I think what's happening is that Carla saw Gordon as a potential mate, but there were things that Gordon was doing that she didn't like, and it reflected in his appearance, and she didn't like that. Saying, "Listen, I don't want to be holding hands with a 400-pound guy." So that's why. So that she's saying that's why she wouldn't date Gordon. She's saying I eventually would have dated you, saying that listen, if I had gotten desperate enough, I would have married Scott Willard, the weather guy, because that's what you look like. You kind of look like Scott Willard. However, Claire is saying, listen, I can date you now. And Gordon is saying, why? He's saying, well, because you look better to me. You're slimmer down. You kind of look like the version of the man I want to be with. Someone who won't embarrass me, when we're just simply, outside. Two are getting closer here. Clara wants to kiss Gordon. Gordon saying, you don't have to ask. Just go ahead and do it. And they passionately embrace. Will they make it? Maybe. Gordon's willing to change. That's a good thing. You recognize that. Claire's a little bit shallow, but nevertheless, Claire also seems like someone who would keep her word. So I think these two would make it. As long as Gordon is keeping up. As long as Gordon is maintaining. So the next story is, if you love me, fight for me. And our protagonists are Bart. Bart is the main protagonist. Then there's a guy called Stoney. Stoney is the guy who's running interference. And then there's Marcy. Marcy, very pretty, kind of like that Anne Archer look. If you guys don't remember Anne Archer, she's in movies like Local Hero and a few others. She was also in Fatal Attraction. She was the wife. And Anne Archer is beautiful. She is so beautiful. She should have had a better career than she did. She was a really good actress too, and she was just gorgeous to look at. But the thing is, she never got the roles that like Kathleen Turner got and stuff. So anyway, what's happening is that they're all working in a bank. Marcy likes Bart. Bart kind of likes Marcy, but the thing is, Bart's kind of socially awkward. He's shy. He's reluctant to approach her. He's kind of like a wimpy guy, kind of like how I was back then. And except I didn't work in high prestigious banks. And we see Stoney coming in. Stoney's kind of like the hot new guy. Stoney was a former All-American football player. He probably used his athletic connections to get into a good school. He had that wow factor, that star factor. Probably he's the guy. Probably the guys had a bigger heart on for Stoney than the women did. But he's kind of a Casanova. He's kind of like this good-looking, kind of Flash Thompson type guy. And like Flash Thompson, he kind of like, flamed out in college. So anyway, it turns out that that Stoney is going to be the boss of both Marcy and Bart. So they both have new bosses. Bart and Marcy, obviously they are at this point friends. Marcy wants Bart to be more than that, but he's kind of a wimpy guy, not getting the hints. But now they have this new agent called Stoney. Stoney is a charming guy. He's smiling. He's probably patting this older executive in the ass, saying, "Hey, remember me at raise time." Once again, they're drawing buildings and having the people speaking from them to avoid drawing figures. Um, and it looks like Stoney's kind of a jerk. Because like the first time he speaks to Bart, he's like, "I want those reports right now, chop chop." So Stoney kind of likes, kind of pushing people around. Marcy's thinking to herself that Bart was the one who wanted that manager's job, but like I said, he wasn't able to charm and charisma size, if that's a word, HR the way that Stoney has. Gonna turn the page. So we see that Stoney is kind of making a name for himself. He's getting a lot of reports done. Upper management is happy with him. But it turns out that it's really kind of a facade, because Bart is doing all the work and Stoney's taking all the credit. So the thing is that Stoney is treating Bart like he's Chat GPT, saying whenever he needs a report done, he just gives it to Stoney. He orders Bart to do it. Stoney orders Bart to do it. Bart gives it to the higher ups, and then he claims all credit with the higher ups. So the higher ups are saying that he's getting a lot of production from this crew, and he must be the one doing it. But no, it's Bart who's doing it. Now, in fairness, this might not be as deceptive as it looks. Stoney is Bart's superior. One of the things he has to do is get production from his, underlings. And that's what he's doing. He's cracking that whip, and he's getting Bart to do all this work. Stoney's like, fuck, I care if Bart gets credit or not. Why? I'm the one who's motivating him into working himself to death. And that has happened. I've talked about John Vanderpool, who was Marvel's production manager, the job literally killed him. Now, part of that was because of all the financial malfeasance that was going on in the office, but that job killed him. Also, I think a couple of years ago, there was an employee from Bank of America, and they had overworked him to the point where he was in the grave at 39. So anyway, this is what's happening. Stoney's being a real dickhead here, but Bart's being a wimp. Now, this is causing some contention between Marcy and Bart, because Marcy wants Bart to speak up more. But Bart's kind of a guy who realizes, I know my place, and it's fine, and I don't mind the extra work. Marcy comforts Bart by giving him a little kiss, saying, I think you're wonderful. Bart thanks Marcy here, says, thanks, honey. Now, the thing is, Marcy is still, she's not fully committed to a relationship with Bart, because she wants to hear back from Bart. Remember, this is the 70s. The guys ask the girls at this point, or the men ask the women, and women weren't expected to be that aggressive. We see there's coffee breaks going on, water cooler talk, as they would call it. Everyone has their coffee. Marcy is noting how the other women in the office are reacting to Stoney. Apparently, they're very charmed by Stoney. So Stoney's kind of like a lounge lizard, in that, he's best when he's kind of associating with the other members, but he's never at his desk doing any actual work. Bart's doing all the work, and he's just kind of like, kind of circulating around the office here. Gonna turn the page. Marcy doesn't like that. We're gonna take a look at some posters here. John Travolta, who was big at the time. Robbie Benson, who was an up and comer. I never really saw what anyone saw in him. See Barry Manilow, who again, he had been a big star since 1974. He was very show-tuney, shall I say. He had a lot of great songs that I liked, but they were these big dramatic Broadway show tune type things. Scott Baio here, who was I guess he was kind of a big thing. Debbie Boone. Debbie Boone was a big bone girl. She had that one big hit, "You Light Up My Life," which was basically a love song to God. So she's talking about hooking up and messing around with Jesus. And see Erica Estrada, he was a very popular guy. Leif Garrett was popular with the teenagers. And yeah, some others, yeah, you get like, Farrah Fawcett Majors as Holly in Logan's Run. They don't want people to think that they're going to get the famous red swimsuit poster. Farrah looked beautiful in Logan's Run. Chrissy McNichol, Cheryl Tiegs. Yeah, if you Kiss, it's a very white list. Can turn the page. Take a look at this ad. Some violent stuff here, considering this is a romance comic. They have these wrist things, which are weighted. So apparently, if you karate chop someone, you get some extra power. You get Barbary Coast Knuckle Buckle. Basically, what it is that it's brass knuckles, but it's done in a way that they can act as a belt buckle. So this is sort of like a pseudo belt buckle, where it's purportedly doing one function, which is legal, while hiding the fact that it's undercover for an illegal object. Because it's illegal to own brass knuckles. You can kill someone using brass knuckles. And here we have 8mm motion projector, and we see this scantily clad woman. The idea is that this was this is the machine you used if you wanted to watch some dirty movies at home. At this time, it was really kind of hard to watch dirty movies because, 79, we already had beta. We had beta in 75. We had VHS in 77. So yeah, so it was just starting to emerge. Tapes were really expensive at that time. They were in the $60, $70 range by, even by 1979 money. There were some people, I guess, they still had these 8mm projectors. At least there were some companies that had to try to sell them. As far as the Beta VHS wars, Beta originally had a better product, but VHS was an easier product to handle. So whatever superior visual and sound differences that you got from a Beta taping, it didn't bother people. It wasn't enough to discourage people from buying VHS tapes. And the thing with VHS tapes, VHS machines were easier to handle, because when a VHS machine was damaged, it was usually a mechanical issue. But when a Beta machine was damaged, it was usually with the electronics. And the thing is, the repairman can fix a mechanical issue, but he can't, or she can't fix a problem with the motherboard. If the electronics are gone, the repairman can't do it. But if there's a mechanical problem, the repairman can fix it. And we had to take some of our VCR into the repair person's shop. Yeah, and I remember it was hard getting dirty tapes. They were kind of expensive. I was not also old enough to legally buy them, but luckily I was tall and I was able to access them. Turn the page. So anyway, there's a Christmas party going on. And Stoney is charming the pantyhose off of every woman in the office. And these young, attractive women, even maybe some of the older ones, are, falling under the spell of Stoney. But it turns out Marcy is really the only woman there who's immune to Stoney's charms. She sees through him as a complete phony. She's still carrying that torch for Bart, and she's kind of hoping that Bart will step up. She's certainly giving Bart enough signals here. And the thing is, Bart is reciprocating. He is reciprocating, so he's not totally blind to it, but Bart needs to kind of step up things. So anyway, Marcy wants a drink. Bart is going to get it, so he's going to kind of leave her for a moment. Now, during this moment, Stoney sees her alone. Marcy, who is an attractive Ann Archer type, definitely he's gonna want some attention from her. And I guess he was like kind of saying, "Hey, the little mouse here, how you doing?" So I guess Stoney kind of viewed Marcy as this kind of shy mouse girl who could not stand up to the charisma of Stoney Phillips. And this is his opportunity to sort of give that, that shy little girl the chance to be with Stoney. This is the girl who's really pretty but really shy and doesn't gain the attention of the high school quarterback. But now he's noticing because he has an advantage, wants to take care of it. He wants to notch every woman on his belt. Stoney is being aggressive. He's actually physically grabbing her, saying, "Hey, baby, there's no time for you to be shy. You got to tell me how great I am." Marcy doesn't like it. She's saying, "Stop it, Stoney. Let go of me this instant." And all those words were underlined. So, like, Marcy's making it clear, "Stop touching me." Marcy sees Bart coming. She calls out, "Bart, tell this fool to let me go." And Bart's saying, "The joke's over, Stoney. You'd better let her go now." Stoney's not hearing about it. He takes his hand. He waves his hand. Then Bart, he spills both of the drinks. He falls to the side. He goes, "Hey," and then we see Stoney saying, "Butt out, shrimp. Marcy's come to the party with the wrong man, but she's going home with the right man, me." Saying that Marcy has the heart and soul of a goddess, and as a goddess, she deserves more than you or what this office has to offer. She deserves me. Gonna turn the page. Okay, this is kind of a weird panel here, because Bart's on the floor, but he's the one saying, "Come on, get to your feet." Is he talking to his own feet? Because his ass is on the floor. Stoney is standing tall right here, but Bart is talking like, Stoney's on the floor. Then Bart says to Stoney, You want me to fight you, but I can't. I won't. Fighting doesn't solve anything. What would I achieve, even if I did beat you? Yeah, a sense of satisfaction, a sense of dignity, the idea that you put a bully in their place. Don't you worry, saying, "I can beat you up, but I choose not to." Stoney's not buying this bluff. He's saying, "This is the mouse that roared. Ha ha, I knew it. He's as yellow as a fresh lemon." And then he continues, "Here, Marcy, take your big brave boyfriend. I won't hurt him. Everyone, go back to having fun. The big fight is over." And Bart says, "We better leave now, Marcy. I'm a big pussy." And Marcy's saying, "I'm not going with you, Bart. Maybe Stoney's right. Maybe I am with the wrong man. If you really loved me, you would have fought for me, you big wimp." And Bart's saying, "Is that what you really wanted me to do? To fight him?" "Marcy, please wait. I can explain." "There's no need to explain. Good night, Bart. Where's that mistletoe, Stoney?" And Stoney says, "Now you're playing it smart. Right this way, sweetie." So then Stoney leads Marcy to the mistletoe, and they two kiss passionately while Bart can just simp on, watching in silence. So anyway, a few days after the Christmas party, things get back to normal. However, Marcy's still angry with Bart, and and she starts to date Stoney. Marcy is the last conquest in the office at this point. Bart's saying to Marcy, "You won't talk to me. You won't even listen to me." Marcy's like, "There's nothing to talk about, Bart. I wish I could iron it out, but I don't think we can." So she's tired. She's saying, "I kind of see this guy as a simp and a wimp. I want nothing to do with him." Now, we see Marcy. She's with Stoney at this point. Stoney is telling Bart, "Make sure you finish my monthly reports before you leave. I got to take this beautiful girl to dinner." And Marcy's like, "Let's go. Let's get going. I'm famished." Bart's saying, "Have a nice time." "Thanks, we will." So this guy is a rug, and he is just lying there, just being trampled on. But then what happens is that two criminals burst into the office, and one of them has a gun, and they're demanding everyone empty their wallets. So they're going to rob the place here. Stoney's saying, "If this is a joke," and one of the criminals says, "It's no joke, Buster. Now raise your hands or I'll waste you right now. Come here, sister. You're going to be my shield, just in case. So I'm going to grab you, keep you close, real close. Kind of like make sure my body is on yours, and you're going to shield me. You're going to shield me from police bullets, and you're going to shield me from loneliness." So Marcy's horrified. She goes, "Eek!" Bart's still looking on. Marcy's calling out to Stoney, "Stoney, do something!" And Stoney is sweating bullets. He's saying, Are you kidding? Those guys are for real. And so are those guns. I don't want to be a dead hero." Well, one, you're not being a hero at all. So whether you're dead or alive, no one's going to say you were a hero, Stoney. I'm going to turn the page. Then the other participant of this crime sees Bart, and he says, "You look like a man who wouldn't do anything foolish. Get over here and start collecting the cash." So then, so Bart in his leisure suit, his green lime leisure suit, he walks forward with his hands up. So what's happening is, this is a bank. So this is a bank robbery. And what's going on is that they want Bart to clean out the teller's tills to get the money. But then what happens is, as Bart is walking toward the assailants, the bank robbers, he uses these very stiff karate moves on them. We see Bart doesn't wear socks. So he was channeling Don Johnson in Miami Vice. I did that for a while. I think I did that for a couple of months because Don Johnson wasn't wearing socks. I stopped wearing socks, but I was wearing sneakers, and the smell was quite noticeable. At some point, I actually had to stop it. We see Bart. He's using his karate moves, so the two bank robbers are knocked out, and it happens in seconds. Bart thinks out loud, "That takes care of them. They'll be out for a long time." Gonna turn the page. So we see the three of them. Bart saying to Stoney. Stoney still has his hands up, so he's such a pussy that he sees the bank robbers knocked out, but he's still so afraid that he's keeping his hands up. Bart's saying, "You can put your hands down now, Stoney, and call the police." Marcy's saying, "Bart, oh Bart." We see Bart has taken the gun. So Bart has the gun here. Might be looking extra sexy to both Marcy and Stoney. Marcy apologizes, saying, "I didn't know that you knew karate. I thought you were a big pussy." Honestly, he kind of acted like a big pussy. But Bart's saying, "When I tried to, you didn't give me the chance. And besides that, I don't like to advertise the fact that I have a black belt." So he's kind of some fake modesty there. Marcy's asking, "Will you take me back? Can you ever forgive me for being so stupid? Because it's all my fault because I'm a woman. Will you ever love me again? Bart says, I never stopped loving you, babe. And the police come, and Bart points out, hey, those guys unconscious on the floor, you can take them away, officers. It turns out that this moment opened up the eyes to the bank manager, the higher-ups. They realized that Bart was doing all the work and that Stoney was kind of a parasite. And the bank manager promises some changes around here. Turn the page. Apparently, Bart was promoted, and this promotion was so impressive that it made the headlines of the Daily Star. So everybody in town knew that Bart had gotten a promotion, which meant that any criminals reading the paper that day, they said, we know who to mug now. And we know who to take advantage of. And his landlord says, now I know who I can raise the rents on. So anyway, now Bart is the district manager, which is the job that Stoney had. But Marcy's still his secretary, but they're actively dating. And he says to Marcy, that's all for this morning, Miss Rowland. Now how about some lunch, sweetheart? And Marcy says, you're the boss. And Bart says, in another couple of months, you'll have to get used to calling me boss. And what the hell? And then I'm not blaming Gummies on that. That is some bad writing. And Marcy says, that's right, fiance. And then the two are going to go out for lunch. But before then, Bart is going to give orders to his assistant, Stoney. He tells Stoney, we're going to lunch now, Stoney. Make sure you finish checking over that last batch of loan applications before you eat. And then Stoney agrees to this. He says, listen, this man can control what I eat. I cannot take in vital nutritions without Bart's permission. So this guy, he is no longer the corporate king of the office. And that's it. And will they make it? Yeah. They'll have one thing in common. They can just talk about how cruelly they're treating Stoney. And that's it for the story. We'll take a look. Some ads, bodybuilding ads. Oh, okay, so we're up to Buck's Bag. Take a look at some of the problems that the kids were having in 1979. There is an ad here, at least one ad that is very wow. Okay, so the first letter is from a 15-year-old girl, and the boyfriend broke up with her about a month ago because she's a cheerleader on the football team. So he didn't like the fact that she was a cheerleader. And the thing is that he's saying, I'll take you back if you quit being a cheerleader. I can say from personal experience, I remember when I was in my 20s, I was dating a woman. She was also in her 20s, and she had been a cheerleader in high school. And the thing is that she was like 23, I was 28 at the time. She was still carrying the aches and pains from being a cheerleader into adulthood. Because I remember she was always complaining about her knees, and I think she might have been having some back problems, but it was mostly the knees. And she knew it was all that jumping up and down as a high school cheerleader. She told me that her worst moment as a high school cheerleader was that she accidentally sneezed when she didn't intend to, and her hand was covered in snot, and she started crying, and her dad had to come out from the stands to kind of take her out. Yeah. So anyway, so the thing is, the 15-year-old. So the boyfriend might be doing her a favor years later, but right now, this is not a good deal for her because the boyfriend's being very controlling, saying, you have to do this test or otherwise I can't date you. Buck is saying this kid is being very selfish, in giving you this demand. And honestly, if he truly loved you, he wouldn't be doing that. And basically, it's like, get rid of that zero and find a hero. Second letter is from a 14-year-old who's new to town. She's made a lot of friends, and she actually has a boyfriend too. But the thing is, a friend of the boyfriend doesn't like her, and he's been spreading rumors about her. Now she's a new girl, so the thing is, people don't know about her. So the thing is, they're taking this guy's word more seriously, figuring that, hey, maybe this guy does have some information on her we don't. But she doesn't like this. She feels that this guy's just an interloper who's trying to break him up. Buck is saying you should have a talk with the boyfriend, snitch this guy out, saying, listen, your friend is causing a lot of trouble for me. Can you talk to him? And he's saying that you can also use this as a test, because if he refuses to do it, this guy that you're dating, he's not worth dating. He's not going to defend you against this. So that's his advice. In the last letter, two 14-year-olds. What's happening is that these two 14-year-olds, they've been going out on and off. They've broken up a lot. Sometimes for dumb reasons, sometimes, understandable reasons. They always come back. So the thing is, they're kind of circling the drain at this point. Then she's mentioning that her boyfriend Tony had went out behind her back a couple of times. He said he denied it, but the thing is, she found out that it was true. Tony lives about 4 miles away, and she has a hard time seeing him. They're 14 years old. They're probably living in some rural hellhole. He's kind of not being a good boyfriend, so he's kind of putting her in the pocket, the back pocket. And Buck's saying, listen, this guy, he's kind of not ready to be steady with anyone. He's kind of just stringing you along. He's using you as a backup plan. And he's kind of suggesting that, you break up for a while. Now, if he comes back to you and he behaves a little more solidly, that's fine. But Buck is figuring that this kid, once she decides to break up, he's not going to do anything, because he's sort of like, yeah, I kind of want to get rid of this girl. I have to travel 4 miles to see her. So, that's going on with the kids. Take a look at some other things. We got the sequel word puzzle. I never read those. Okay, so we have the last ad here. The very controversial ad here is for test tube babies. This was a new thing. I think the first test tube baby, it happened in England, and it was huge news, because it was the first time that scientists were successfully able to fertilize an egg without the mom being the incubator, so to speak. So this was a big thing. I think they put the sperm and the ovaries in the same mix and so forth. It's still controversial today. Some people don't like it. It's also becoming controversial because it's a way for couples to have babies. But the thing is, the treatment's really expensive. There were programs to kind of offset those costs. Trump said he was going to make it free. He didn't do that. In fact, he made it more expensive. And but that type of infertility treatments, they're quite expensive, and they don't always work. No one's interested in having my baby. There was one girl, there was one woman I was with. We were kind of like, okay, we have to wait a couple weeks for a yes or no. That's the closest. But anyway, they're saying, you can create life in test tubes. What once was fiction is now reality. Now you too, through the miracle of modern science, can perform this thrilling experiment in your home. They're telling you that you could make homegrown, at home babies in test tubes. So I'm guessing, I don't know how they can get the sperm is kind of easy. You ask a guy to jerk off into a test tube. That's fine. That works. But how do you get the egg out of the woman's body without like mortally killing her? That doesn't work unless you do it the old-fashioned way, with the sausage insertion method. Yeah, it's saying they'll give you the special liquid solutions, so anyone can create life. So you have a 6-year-old, and you had the 6-year-old some sperm and God knows what else, and you say, "Honey, you can have your baby. You can create it right here." And in 9 months, it'll be crying and shitting in your lap. Yeah, you get life cells, test tubes, magnifiers, nutrients, complete instructions, informative booklet on the history of these unique life forms. Oh my God! Now they're designated as life forms and not human beings. Okay, so it's like a mini lab. God, that was a horrible. And mind you, these are like 14-year-old girls reading this. And we do see an ad for help fight multiple sclerosis, which is a good cause. You don't want to have that. And that's it. And that is my review of Secret Romance issue number 42. And I hope to have more reviews up soon. Bye.